Hello, AU students. My name is John Gropp. I'm the Dean of Students, and I am here to welcome you to our virtual town hall meeting. This meeting is set up to provide you with the most up-to-date information about what life is going to look like on campus. We know you've got some questions, and we appreciate all the students that sent in questions, and we're going to do our absolute best to answer those for you in the next few minutes. We've got several guests that we've invited to help us during this time, and I'm going to introduce them to you, and then they're going to come and share a little bit about what each specific area around campus is going to look like. First up, we've got Ed Duvall, who's our Executive Director of Health Services, and then followed by Nathan Cox, the Associate Provost, who's going to talk about what things are going to look like specifically in the classroom. And then Wes Brazier, our Vice President for Christian Life, will be here to answer your questions regarding campus worship and campus ministries. And then I'm going to come in and give you some more information about campus life, specifically about residence life and about dining and just what social life is going to look like on campus. Brenna Morris, our Director of Student Activities, is going to serve as our host, and she's going to be following up with some of the questions that you asked. So we hope you enjoy this video, and if you've got questions afterwards, please feel free to contact the Student Development Office at 864-622-6011, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Enjoy.
Good afternoon. My name is Ed Duvall. I'm the Executive Director of University Wellness. Thank you, Brendan, for the opportunity for me to come here today to tell you a little bit about how Thrive Wellness is going to look in the fall. Thrive Wellness, which will affect most of the students, has health services and counseling services. Both of those are going to be by appointment only this year. A very important phone number is 864-622-6078. What we're trying to do with appointments this year is to limit the exposure of people walking into the clinic that may make others sick. So if you have any signs or symptoms on COVID, please call that number to schedule your appointment, and you will be triaged by a healthcare professional. They will be offering face-to-face visits for those who qualify, telemedicine visits, as well as referrals for any testing off campus that we might have. Now, some people have also asked, what is Thrive doing for self-quarantine and self-isolation? Well, with self-quarantine, the current DHEC recommendations are for you to quarantine in your room, as well as self-isolation, to quarantine in your room. One thing that we're really doing is we are really trying to champion the parents to realize your child's sick. Where do they need to be sick? They need to be sick at home. They're more comfortable there. So until someone is tested or a test comes back positive, we want them to go home where they're most comfortable. Now, if you can't go home or you live far away or you're an international student, we do have facilities on campus, a male and a female area, where you will be isolated through the recommendations of the healthcare professional.
Awesome. One question that we have from our students is, will we have to be tested for COVID-19 before returning for the fall semester?
You will not, under current standards, have to be tested. DHEC actually recommends that testing is a snapshot in time. Where you may be tested on Thursday, you could have an exposure Friday, Saturday, or Sunday before you come back to school. So at this time, we will not be recommending or requiring testing for students to come back.
Awesome. Another question, will we have to wear masks on campus?
We will have to wear masks on campus. This is going to be different for faculty, staff, and for students, but our current policy is to wear masks indoors. So whether it's a lecture, whether it's in the commons area and things, we will be required to wear masks.
Awesome. And then one more, how will you protect higher risk students in general? So what is our procedure for students that are maybe more at risk?
If you are an at-risk student or you have any medical documentation, please, as soon as you can, reach out to the Center for Student Success. They will work on any accommodation needs that you need, get you anything that you might need to be successful here at Anderson University.
Thanks, Ed.
Hi, my name is Nathan Cox, and I'm Assistant Provost at the university and Director of our Center for Learning and Teaching Excellence, and I'm going to answer some questions about what academics are going to look like this fall in the classroom. So I'll just start with a couple of basic things. One is changes to the calendar. You're probably already aware, but just be sure to realize that classes will start a week earlier than planned on August 19th. And there will be a couple of changes throughout the semester. We won't have a break for Labor Day. The classes will meet on Labor Day. And the other bad news is that we will not have fall break. We'll have classes on fall break. But the good news is that's going to allow us to finish instruction in the classroom 2 weeks early. So your last day of class will actually be the Tuesday before Thanksgiving break. And the only thing that will happen after Thanksgiving break is finals week, and finals will all be online. So there may not be any reason to return to campus after Thanksgiving until the spring semester starts. So another question that we're seeing a lot of is just questions about what's my schedule going to look like? Are all my classes going to be online? Are they all going to be face-to-face? What's going to be different? So there's a couple of things there to think about. If you were enrolled in a hybrid course that would have met only once a week, there's a good chance that it may be transitioned to be a totally online course in your schedule. Don't think, though, that your whole schedule is going to be online. You would maybe only have 1 or maybe 2 classes online. And even if you are taking a class online, your faculty member in the vast majority of cases is still going to be here on campus, where you're here on campus if you're a residential student, and they'll be very available via Zoom or office hours. So you're not going to be totally isolated in any way. If you were enrolled in a seated course, many of you probably your whole schedule was seated, some of those classes may be hybrid officially. It'll in your schedule be listed as a hybrid traditional course. So those classes will just meet once a week, and then you'll be doing some online work for the rest of the coursework. There will be some seated courses that still stay listed as seated courses, but there may be some changes even just internally within the course about how often you meet. There may be a group of students that only come to class on Tuesdays and a group of students that only come on Thursdays, et cetera. So there's going to be kind of a variety of experiences in your schedule, but the important thing to keep in mind is you'll be here on campus, you'll be in class, and your faculty members will be available. And it will look quite a bit different, even if it's an online course, it'll look quite a bit different than online remote instruction looked in the spring. So you might be wondering, how will you know, like which kind of classes you'll be in? That'll be on your schedule. If a class has been changed to online, it will read as online. If it's been changed to hybrid, it will be listed that way. And if there's just some variations to a seated course, your faculty members will explain that. Your professors are going to clarify all that, on the first day of class. Another important question is what will happen if a student wants to only be learning remotely and wants to take all of their classes online? Can that happen? And the answer is maybe. It's a possibility. If a student is immunocompromised or living with someone and commuting, and someone in their home is immunocompromised, you can ask for accommodations. You should start by contacting Diane King in the Center for Student Success, and she will evaluate the situation. And if it's approved for your schedule to all be online, there may be some adjustments. We may have to switch you from one section to another. And there'll be sort of a checklist of criteria to make sure that all works out. But just keep in mind that there will still be attendance expectations for seated courses and participation expectations for online courses. Those might look a little bit different. Attendance policies might look a little bit different based on department. Departments already have their own attendance policies based on discipline. But even if there is a little bit of a variation, that'll be clear as well. So another question is, what are classrooms actually going to look like when we're in class together? And the short answer is there'll be a lot more space and maybe fewer students, and most people will be wearing masks all the time indoors. That's the reason for some of the changes to the schedule, is to just have fewer students in class at any given point, so there is plenty of room to physically distance. And most faculty will be requiring students to wear masks while they're in class, unless it's in an auditorium where there's plenty of space for people to have plenty of distance. Expect to wear masks in class. Another question is about how advising and registration will work. So that will be fairly similar to what happened in the spring. Around spring break and when we went to remote learning last semester, that was about the time of advising and registration. So a lot of faculty members met with their advisees virtually via Zoom, and that will continue. Most likely, faculty office hours will be similar. Faculty will be available for consultations and appointments during, probably scheduled hours, but often that'll be via Zoom. But faculty will be here. They'll be available, and you shouldn't feel like you're going to be out on your own, isolated in any way. Everyone's going to be here reaching out and being available. And I mentioned finals before. Finals week will be completely online. All final exams will be online, but not all final assessments may be exams. You may have a final paper that's due during exam time, or you may have a final project that's due at that time. So there are lots of ways to assess learning and lots of ways to assess cumulative learning at the end of the semester. And a traditional seated exam is not the only way. So you might expect some variations there, but don't expect surprises. Faculty members are not going to say to you a week before finals, by the way, your final exam is a final paper that's 20 pages long, and good luck. That won't happen. We won't be surprising you. And another question that people are asking is, what happens if at some point during the semester it is necessary to revert to online learning, something similar to what we did in the spring? And I would say that what does that look like if that has to happen? I would say that it will look something like what it did last semester, but it will look different as well. Because last semester in the spring, when we went to remote learning with a week or two of notice and preparation time for faculty, I'm really pretty impressed with what faculty members did and what the departments did. But if we end up moving to online instruction at some point during the fall, that will be after a summer plus weeks of time to plan and design courses for online learning more in the way that you would normally expect it to be if you were just signed up for an online course. So I'm going to stop there and see if there are other questions that I don't know about or maybe know about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Nathan. Specifically for our education majors, how will placements be handled this fall if public schools do not resume?
Right. Well, that's the question. What are the public schools doing? So if the schools are open, our students, if they're in placements, they'll be following whatever protocols, whatever expectations are in place for students and teachers in the schools, in the districts. And students should know, relatively early on what their placements are. For clinical hours and observations, students have to have some coursework and some preparatory material done before they're really out into the schools. And so in many cases, that wouldn't happen until September or so. So that gives us some time to plan, basically. The students that are doing student teaching, they'll be doing whatever the schools are doing, basically, and with the understanding that our students will be in schools and hospitals for students in the School of Nursing, et cetera, with permission of the schools and the hospitals. So we'll be following whatever protocols are there. But we do have some guidance from the State Department of Education, and there are going to be opportunities for alternatives. If clinical hours can't be completed on site, face-to-face, because students are learning remotely from home, then clinical hours will sort of follow suit. There will be opportunities for online instruction. Maybe students will be completing their hours with, examples where they're designing online learning experiences or teaching via Zoom or things like that. And the important thing, I think, to remember is that we will work with students and we will partner with them and partner with the schools to make sure that requirements are not going to prevent them from acquiring their certification. So we don't have all the answers yet, but we have plans in place and backup plans, and we're pretty confident that we'll be able to make it work even in worst case scenarios.
Awesome. Another question that we received is, will the South Carolina School of the Arts have live performances on campus?
Yes. The School of the Arts is going to have to get pretty creative this semester, which is a good thing. Creativity is kind of our jam in the School of the Arts. So there are some answers to some of those questions that we know for sure, and some plans still being made. But the two main theater productions will be a little bit different. One of them will be outdoors, and the other one will be a serialized podcast. So we're going to take some different approaches to performances. And the other thing to keep in mind, too, is that there may be fewer opportunities for performances, but there will be probably more emphasis for students on the technique and the craft and the preparatory work that they're doing. So I kind of think of it maybe like an all-star sports team that maybe is going to spend more time practicing, maybe even practicing different sorts of drills that they wouldn't have had a chance to do before, and maybe a little bit less time on the field, for example. And some of the things I mentioned about the theater department and the AU Playhouse, some similar things apply for vocal and choral groups and musical performances. We will have to have adequate spacing, distancing for performances for both the performers and audience members. So we're looking at some outdoor rehearsal spaces even as a opportunity we're exploring. And certainly there will need to be appropriate distancing for audiences. So that means probably fewer ticket sales. We'll have to keep the safety of everyone as top priority, of course.
Great. Thanks, Nathan.
Hi, my name is Wes Brazier. I serve as Vice President for Christian Life and Campus Minister here at Anderson University. And many people are asking me questions about what will chapel look like this fall. And so I want to say that we have a great plan for chapel where students will be able to be live seated in campus worship on Wednesdays at 10:10. And we'll also be recording those services for delivery online. And so students will have some options this year of how they will earn their credits for the Journey program. But although it's a unique situation, we feel good about our plan, and we look forward to seeing students back on campus. In terms of campus ministries, events, and gatherings, we'll also be able to continue having those events. And it may look a little bit different, but we will continue to be a great community and to gather together as often as possible.
Thanks, Wes. I think a question everyone has is about the new space at the new Campus Ministries building. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I can. Thank you, Brenna. Yeah, so the new Campus Ministries house is on Kingsley Road, and we're excited about that. In fact, the Campus Ministry staff and I were there today walking through, and we think students are going to love it. It's very student-oriented, and it'll be a space where students can come and if they need to study or rest, reflect, pray, or if they want to have a good time. We'll have all different kinds of events there, but we're really excited about it and looking forward to students enjoying that space.
Thanks, Wes.
Like I said earlier, my name is John Gropp, and I'm the Dean of Students, and I want to talk with you a little bit about what life is going to look like outside the classroom. What are some of the things that we're going to be asking students to do so that we can stay safe and continue to stay here on campus and continue going to class. One of the main things that we're requiring all students, faculty, staff, and guests to do is to wear a face covering. The face covering is going to be required in all buildings, and if you live on campus, you will be required to wear that face covering when you enter your residence hall. However, once you get into your room or your suite, then you can remove that face covering. But until that time, we're asking that you keep that on. In outside locations, you're free to remove that face covering as long as you're able to maintain 6 foot distance. And so while you're walking to and from class, you can remove that face covering. But again, once you enter that building, we're asking that you go ahead and put that back on. One of the other things that we're exploring is the idea of family groups. If you are a student that lives here on campus, we want to create ways for you to be able to interact with other students while you're here on campus. And so the concept of a family group is being defined as the group of students that you live with in your residence hall or in your suite. So if you live in a location like over in Boulevard, where they have community style bathrooms and there's only two of you in your room, the two students that you and your roommate would be considered that family group. Now, if you live in, say, Stringer, where you've got 8 students, those 8 students would be in your family group. And as I mentioned before, you'd be able to remove your face covering while you're in your suite. And we are going to allow 4 students who make up a family group to be able to eat together in the dining commons. And I'll talk a little bit later about what dining is going to look like as a whole. But the family group is going to, again, provide that opportunity to sit indoors in the dining commons and be able to remove that face covering. If you're living on campus, you know that we do regular health and safety inspections, and we're going to be continuing to do those this year, but they'll be taking place virtually. So the RD staff won't be entering your room space, but we're asking you to submit photos of your room and to just show that you've been able to maintain the health and safety standards. We're also asking all students to bring with them a good supply of cleaning and disinfecting materials. So especially hand sanitizer, disinfecting wipes are going to be some of the key things to start watching for in Target or Walmart or wherever you can pick those up so that you have enough for when you arrive here on campus. We're encouraging students not only to wipe down spaces within their hall, but also to remember that sometimes your phone needs to be wiped down, or your laptop or your iPad, since those are frequent and high-touch spaces. As far as just general cleanliness and disinfection on campus, we have a plan, and our facilities folks have been working on a schedule to disinfect all common spaces on a regular basis. So that includes all the student center spaces, classrooms, of course, and then the lobby spaces within the residence halls. So you can expect additional cleaning that's taking place in there, but we're asking all students to do your part in your own personal space to maintain a healthy and sanitized environment. As far as personal wellness goes, we're again asking all students to just be aware of your own personal health and to monitor that on a daily basis. As Ed mentioned earlier, we Thrive Wellness is here to support you if you're feeling sick, and so one of the best ways that we know how to determine whether or not you're feeling well or not is to take your temperature on a regular basis. So we are asking all students, if you live here on campus or even if you're commuting, that you would pick up a thermometer and that you would get in the habit of regularly taking your temperature before you leave for campus every morning. And that's just going to be a good indicator of just how you're feeling. If you have a fever, we're asking you to contact Thrive. Not come to campus, not come to class, contact Thrive for some additional instructions. As far as within the residence halls, we are temporarily suspending the visitation program. And I know that is disappointing to students, but this is a temporary thing, and we feel like it is best to keep the residence hall environment as free of outside guests as possible for the time being. So students, you will be able to visit with one another in the lobby space or in the student center or in the library like you normally do. We're just not going to allow you to host guests in your room for the time being. However, if you do, let's say you live in Kingsley Hall, and you live on the first floor and you've got a friend that lives down on the second floor, you will be able to visit with that person within your hall. So you still can hang out with other students that are within your own residence hall. All right, let's follow up a little bit more about dining. I did mention that we're this idea of family groups, but wanted you to know that in all of our dining facilities that we have reduced the capacity down to about 50% capacity in all of those spaces, spreading out tables so that when you're sitting, you're enough distance apart to be able to remove your face covering while eating. In all of those indoor locations, unless you are in a family group, you will not be able to, unfortunately, dine with other students. However, you can take your meal to go and sit outside, with other students, and do that as freely as you like, as long as you're able to maintain distance. And we are working on securing some additional outdoor seating so that there's more places to sit than what we normally have here on campus. In addition to that, if you choose to eat indoors, we are converting the banquet space here in the Student Center to allow for some additional seating so that, if you can't find a space down in the dining commons, then you will be able to find a spot up in the banquet hall. When you go in for a meal in the DC, you will notice that all the meals will be served by the Airmark staff, by our dining staff. There won't be any self-service options, and again, that's to keep from one person touching a utensil and then passing that on to the next person. So no self-service options, but still plenty of variety that we're going to offer, as well as some to-go options. We're also looking at ways to speed up Chick-fil-A ordering. You know how long that line gets, especially at lunchtime, and so we're looking at ways that we can speed that up and lessen the amount of time that you're waiting in line to receive your meal. We're also looking at the possibility of some additional to-go options that might be available in Books and Beans, so that if you're on that end of campus, you can just grab a meal real quickly and not have to come over here to the Student Center. As far as move-in goes, I know that some of you have been anticipating what that's going to look like and how we're going to do move-in, and I'll give you all the details here, and then if you've got some questions, you can certainly follow up with our Residence Life staff on that. We're spreading out the move-in time, so we have separate move-in time for brand new students, and then we have a move-in time for returning students. The returning student move-in dates are August 16th, 17th, and 18th. And they are spread out over those 3 days. We are only letting a maximum of about 200 students move in per move-in day, and you'll be able to sign up for a 2-hour move-in time block. The sign-up form is actually going to be sent out tomorrow. So right after you view this town hall, you can go and sign up for your move-in time, and you should be able to receive that link in your email. If you look on that sign-up sheet and don't see a time that maybe works for you and your family, just call the Residence Life office and we'll see what we can do to accommodate you. One of the important things to remember about move-in is that we are only allowing each student to bring 2 guests with them to assist with move-in. We're, again, spacing this thing out, trying to maintain proper social distancing or physical distancing within our residence halls. So only 2 guests will be allowed to accompany you as you move in. Okay. Lastly, and then I think we've got some follow-up questions that Brenna has that you all have sent in. I do want to just let you know that all the information that we're sharing here is located on our AU website called The Journey Ahead. If you haven't been to that site, you need to visit there. We are updating that site on a regular basis with, again, all of this information that we're sharing, and then all new information that we're getting is going there. So if you go to andersonuniversity.edu/journey ahead, you'll get to that spot. So I encourage you to go there. Encourage you to send that address to your parents as well, so that they have the latest information.
Thanks, John. One question that we received is, will there be any expectations for off-campus travel?
Yeah, good question. As of right now, we are not going to be requiring students to let us know that they're traveling to any certain location. But what we are doing, or what we do expect, is that when you do travel, that you would just think and be safe. And if you feel like you're going into a spot that is, a known hotspot or where you might be at risk, that you would just take the proper precautions, wearing a face covering, maintaining physical distancing, so that you can avoid getting close or being exposed. If at any point you do feel like you are exposed or you've been exposed, please contact Thrive, as Ed mentioned earlier, and do that right away, so that we can work with you to make sure that you have the everything you need as far as testing.
Awesome. Thank you. Will CEP events still be offered this fall?
Yes, we will still offer CEP events. Those similar to classes, many of those will have online options or streaming options. So if you can't make it in person to the CEP event, you'll be able to stream that or watch a recording of that event to be able to earn credit for it.
Great. Will students still be able to hang out in groups if it is an official campus event? And then can they still hang out in the Student Center?
Yeah, we do want students to know, and we want you to know that that yes, there are going to be some things that are different. Wearing a face covering is different. Maintaining 6 foot distance is different. But we do still want to create an environment where students can hang out together, where they can socialize, and we are planning to still have events. And Brenna and her team have already been working on what that's going to look like, so that we can still have social events. They may look a little different than they have in the past, but a lot of what we're trying to do as far as larger events are going to be outdoors, so that we can spread out and be able to still have a lot of fun outside. But so bottom line is, yes, you can hang out with your friends. And if you're outside and you're able to maintain distance, you don't have to wear that face covering. If you do that inside, we're just asking that you do have that face covering on.
As a campus family, will we still be able to celebrate Welcome Week and Homecoming Week?
Yes, absolutely. Our plan is to still hold Welcome Week events for our new students. And of course, our returning students are always welcome to attend those. We invite you to do that and hope that you will attend. The Welcome Week events will start on Saturday evening, August 15th. And so there will be one event that we do just for incoming freshmen, and then we'll continue on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and all the way through the week, just like we have done in the past. Again, those events may not look the same as they've been in the past, but we are still going to be doing some of our traditional events, like the expo is going to be taking place in the middle of the week. We're also working on doing the beach bash. That has kind of been a regular tradition that the Whitakers host. So we're looking at ways that we can still do some fun things like that.
Great. Thanks, John. And lastly, do you know about sporting events this fall? Will they have audiences? Will it just be athletes and coaches?
Yeah, we are just receiving some more information about what that's going to look like. Our athletic director, Bert Epting, has, I know, been in contact with the NCAA, and they, I know, recently updated their regulations. So I'm sure in the next week or two, we'll have some more information about what that's going to look like. I know all of us want to be there in person. We want to support our student athletes. We want to be there as much as we possibly can. But so we're hoping that we're going to be able to do that, but we can't say for sure exactly what that's going to look like. But hang on, we should have some more guidance soon.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for joining us for the virtual town hall meeting. We hope that your questions got answered, but again, if they didn't, we want to encourage you to go to our Journey Ahead website, where we'll have the most up-to-date information. If you can't find your answer there, please give us a call and we'll help you in any way we can to prepare you to return to AU. We miss you. We can't wait for you to be here, and we hope you have a great rest of your summer. See you in just a couple weeks.